So the Bucks aren't exactly in a good state right now. I think it's safe to say that we aren't doing good. And there's been a lot of finger pointing, I think, to various parties on the Buccaneers. And I kind of want to break it down, which is why, for the first time in a while, I decided to actually, use my voice and record something. And apologies if I sound a little bit sick. I promise it's not Buccaneers football that's causing me to be like this. I'm just dealing with a little bit of a cold. So if I sound sniffly, I apologize, but I want to bear through it because, good God, last night's game was so incredibly bad. I recorded my thoughts on that game and all the games on my blog site of the same name. So if you want to see my written thoughts, you're more than welcome to check it out there. But yeah, nothing really went right yesterday. I mean, you can point to some things like individual plays that looked pretty good. Tez Johnson still looks pretty good. The run game has still been okay. The offensive line also wasn't too terrible, although, it wasn't amazing. But yeah, like the defense looked completely lifeless for pretty much the whole first half, and the offense didn't look that much better, and it'll probably look worse with Baker Mayfield, I assume, going to miss some time. So maybe when the schedule gets easier, the Bucks will look better, but there's just not a lot of hope to go around right now. And the Bucks haven't been a stranger to this position. It's been kind of what's happened to this team since Todd Bowles has become head coach in 2022. The Bucks just, for whatever reason, go on these long losing streaks. I mean, call it what you will, but it's become a pattern at this point. I was willing to forgive it in 2023 because of how raw the team was and how many new parts there were. We had a new quarterback, we had a new offensive system, we were moving off of a lot of pieces, the whole O-line was kind of in flux. So I was willing to kind of write it off then, although I actually do remember writing an article saying Todd Bowles should be fired during that losing streak, so maybe I wasn't willing to write it off then. But looking back on it, I don't think that losing streak was like, completely unjustified. Like, there were reasons it was happening, and it wasn't all on Todd Bowles. But the Bills game and the Rams game have looked really bad, especially from a coaching perspective. And I'm not just talking about Todd Bowles. All three coordinators, at least like the main coordinators, have looked incredibly suspect for these past few weeks since the bye. I mean, I know the defense hasn't exactly been playing lights out, but the offense hasn't been doing that much either. And part of that is Baker Mayfield, even before the injury, wasn't playing his best ball, but Jesus Christ, like, Grizzard hasn't been scheming it up well. Todd Bowles' defense is being carved like a Thanksgiving turkey, and I don't know what special teams does during practice. Like, I don't know what the hell is going on there. And, it has gotten to the point, again, where I don't think it's an overreaction to look at people's job security on this team. I don't know how you can look at this team and think that Todd Bowles is doing a good job. Yes, the injuries suck. You lost your second best defensive tackle. You've lost your primary edge rusher, or at least like your edge rusher too, the guy who's supposed to be helping Yaya Diaby out. And Vita Vea is being double teamed to hell. But, I mean, all teams deal with injuries, and most of them seem to navigate it better than the Bucks have. You can, again, make the argument on offense at least. It has definitely disrupted the rhythm there, but the thing that I keep coming back to, and a lot of people have been saying this, and I agree with it, is that this team doesn't really have an identity. Even in 2024, when the defense was pretty bad, that team had an identity. It was very obvious what it was, and it was the identity that all Todd Bowles' teams have, which is basically blitz. Blitz to your heart's content and confuse the quarterback with these exotic blitzes. I wouldn't say exactly liked last year, although last year I think was more a product of injury than anything else. But yeah, this year, I don't know what the identity is on offense or defense. I think defense, they did want to prioritize getting takeaways more, which to a certain extent they have done that better. But this defense seems completely unprepared whenever they aren't getting 3 takeaways a game. And even when they do get 3 takeaways a game, they're still letting up 40 points. So again, I had to question, what is the identity of this team on offense and on defense? And that does go back to the head coach. I also don't think Jason Light is entirely innocent in this whole thing. I mean, he's not the primary culprit, but at the end of the day, he did also assemble this team that doesn't seem to have any kind of edge rushing depth. He also drafted Chris Braswell, who has done nothing. Maybe that's the fault of coaching, but he's looking like a complete bust. And Jesus Christ, I don't know if giving Zion McCollum any kind of contract extension was a good idea. But I do think a better coach could be doing more with this roster. This isn't the worst roster in the NFL, and they're 6-5, so it's not like they're playing like the worst team in the NFL. It's hard to look at this team the past 3 weeks and think to yourself, this is the team that's going to compete in the playoffs. Like, hell, they might not even win a division or lead the division. I'm recording this before Monday Night Football, so I don't know who the hell is going to be leading this division by Tuesday. It could be the Panthers, for all I know. And honestly, the Panthers, even though they have a negative point differential, have been playing objectively better football than the Bucs have. They at least feel like they have an identity. In terms of what I think should happen to Bulls and the rest of the guys on this team, I think it does depend on how the rest of the season plays out. If this goes to script like it has for the past couple of years, then the Bucs will go on a winning streak against easier opponents and eventually win the division, which I think will be a close battle between the Panthers and the Buccaneers. And, again, if this goes according to script, they will win the NFC South and face either the 5th or 6th seed in the playoffs. I think that's where the Bucs are heading at this point. Again, assuming, this goes according to what it has been like over the past 2 years, which with Baker out, it might just derail everything. And that's kind of the problem when you go on these long losing streaks with the expectation that you might start winning out against easier opponents. When you have such catastrophic injuries, it kind of ruins that whole sort of idea. But if they lose in the first round of the playoffs again, or, disappoint again, I don't think you can look at Todd Bowles' seat as, being safe. And I do think if they lose in the playoffs, you have to question Todd Bowles' job security. Like, I don't see how you can keep rolling into another season when he's shown the same things over and over again. He keeps making these bad decisions. And it's funny, too, because for most of the season, I actually thought Todd Bowles had really improved as a head coach. I actually thought, for the first time in a while, he actually has shown improvement. He has proven he could be a good coach. He's not the stubborn old man or the guy that was coaching the New York Jets. But these past 2 weeks, when you punting on 4th down to Josh Allen on 4th and 2, when you send Baker Mayfield with a shoulder injury to throw a Hail Mary at your own 30, it's the same guy still. He hasn't actually changed. And it's ridiculous that he is making these decisions over and over to the detriment of this team. He just doesn't have good in-game management. I don't think you can say that. If Todd Bowles is fired by the end of the season, then I do ultimately trust Jason Light to pick his successor. I know he's picked a lot of coaches and most of them haven't exactly been great. I do think that you kind of have to rely on his ability, and he is a good GM, so you kind of have to hope he chooses a good coach. I actually don't think Josh Grizzard should be fired. I think he has shown enough as a first-year play caller, despite some of the rough patches. Although, if Jason Light were to hire an offensive guy like, Clint Kubiak, then I think that becomes a moot point because he would more than likely just hire his own OC and gut, the whole offensive staff and replace it with his own. I think, though, we can all agree, regardless of, should Jason Light be fired? Should Todd Bowles be fired? Should Josh Grizzard be fired? Thomas McGahee should absolutely be fired. That man has done nothing at special teams coordinator in any season, including before he was hired by the Bucs. He was terrible on the Giants, and he's still terrible for the Buccaneers. He's absolutely garbage and should not have a job today. regardless of what we believe, none of this will happen more than likely until the end of the season. You don't fire any sort of prominent coordinator if you are in position to make the playoffs. And despite what it feels like over the past 3 weeks, the Bucks are still in very good position to make the playoffs. They're in a weak division in terms of, or at least compared to the other teams in the NFC, and they do have a pretty good shot of winning the NFC South. Now, whether or not they do anything with the playoff berth is an entirely different story, but they are still pretty well positioned to make the playoffs, provided, depending on how the rest of the season goes, obviously. But right now, they still are in pretty good shape at 6-5. But let me know what you think. I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts about this, and as you should. I don't think it's unjustified for fans to be mad about what Todd Bowles has been doing and what the team has done as a whole. So if you have thoughts and like to share them, leave a comment. Also, subscribe if you like my videos. And yeah, I will have, my least impressive Buccaneers of Week 12 out probably Tuesday or Wednesday. I will be going on vacation for Thanksgiving, so I probably won't be doing too much in between Wednesday and Sunday, so we'll just have to see where it goes. But yeah, until next time, see ya.